Megan and I just got back from exploring the Mamanuca and Yasawa Islands in Fiji, and they blew us away. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what we experienced, what we learned, and ultimately convince you to book your trip to Fiji. These Fijian islands have it all, and they are filled with the friendliest people you'll ever meet. There's nothing like Fijian hospitality. So we ended up spending 5 days in these offshore Fijian islands, a day trip out to the Mamanucas, and then 4 days in the Yasawas. So let's get into it. We booked our day trip out to the Mamanuca Islands with Cruisin Fiji, and I learned from the crew that it is actually pronounced Mamanuca, not Mamanuca. This family-run tour departed from Denaro Island, as most of the main tour and ferry operators do. And we stopped at Mana Island Sandbar, Manu, and Manuriki, which is known for being the filming location of the classic Tom Hanks movie, Castaway. But first up, Mana Island Sandbar. We anchored, jumped overboard, and swam to this idyllic sandbar. And I'll be honest, I was on cloud 9 and living my very best life here, because not only are you in this epic place with incredible reefs, white sand beneath your toes in the middle of the South Pacific, this is Mana Island in the background. And that's significant because if you look at it from Google Earth, you can see the clearings where the US version of Survivor, my favorite TV show, films challenges.
Down he goes. Now you gotta make just one move to get the other two.
This is just so cool and one of the driving factors for us visiting Fiji in the first place. Anyway, after about 30 minutes here, we swam back to the boat and ferried over to the backside of Manu Island, which is just stunning. We were here for probably 30 minutes as well. I was able to send a couple gainers off the boat, snorkel a little bit on a pretty deep shelf that we were sitting on, and relax in the intense sun before we made our way to our final stop, the beautiful and iconic Manuriki. And this has to be one of the most picturesque islands I've ever seen. We were then transported to shore via a little dinghy.
Oh my goodness, this is a beautiful beach.
Where we were served a delicious Fijian lunch. And it was here, under this palm leaf palapa, having a picnic, where I realized this is exactly what I imagined Fiji to feel like. It was just quintessential. Warm sand, blue water, no cell service, and no worries. It was just perfect. So we certainly took a beat to soak it in. But after lunch, I took the opportunity, while I was here, to dress up like Jeff Probst, the host of Survivor, and have some fun.
I'm in Fiji, and I'm Jeff Probst, baby. Survivor's ready. Go!
I got some of my favorite drone shots ever, and we ended our stay here playing volleyball with Wilson. It was a fitting way to wrap the adventure in Manuriki before heading back to the harbor. I wish we could have spent more time in the Mamanucas. We'll be back though.
That was probably the best money that we could have spent. Beautiful weather, 3 islands, the friendliest crew. I think we're still adapting to how friendly Fijians are. Day 1 of exploring the Mamanucas and Yasawa Islands in the books.
Up next is our favorite part of the trip though, 4 days in the Yasawa Islands at Wayalailai Ecohaven, a quaint little slice of tropical heaven. And travel tip number 1, a big reason why Megan and I chose Fiji on this last trip was that we were able to book non-stop lie-flat business class seats from LAX to Fiji for just 55,000 Alaska miles. Prices have gone up slightly, but if you have Alaska miles and are on the west coast of the states, this is a great miles redemption. I have a video coming soon about experiencing that flight and how to book this itinerary yourself, so subscribe to stay tuned for that, but let's get back to the video. To get out to the Yasawa Islands, we departed from Denaro again aboard a much bigger boat. This ferry does one loop each day through the Yasawa Islands, and our stop was the 3rd stop of the day, which was just about a 2-hour journey from port until we anchored offshore in this channel between Kauata Island and Wayalailai Island. We got picked up by a smaller resort skiff by our captain Saki, and this sort of just seemed to be how the ferry system works. It gets you most of the way there, and then the resorts send out their skiffs for the transfer from the ferry to your island. Now we were greeted by this Fijian warrior on a rock, which was just such a great touch. My dad would have loved this.
Bula!
Saki ended up taking us, along with our new friends, to our home for the next 4 days. Wayalailai Ecohaven, or as we like to call it, heaven on earth. We didn't know it at the time, but this was about to be one of our most memorable travel experiences and something I hope everyone gets to experience.
Ready for the big Bula.
You let us know.
We were greeted with a big-time Fijian welcome song when we landed on our beach, and we thanked them in kind with a big Bula of our own.
Bula! 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 Bula!
One more.
Bula! 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 Bula!
Stand up.
Bula is a common greeting that you will hear all the time during your stay in Fiji, and it gets very familiar, and it's just fun.
Vinaka, Bula.
Anyway, after we landed, we received a small property tour by our amazing host, Tai Lo. She and her staff make this stay the incredible place it is. And so, here's that tour. This is the oceanfront area with mini hammocks strung up to relax in, Megan's favorite spot. Then there were kayaks and snorkeling gear for us to use free of charge. Up above the oceanfront area, there are dorm-style stays. Then there's this grassy, common area where we played soccer and volleyball. And then you have a common dining and hangout area. They do have a little bar where you can buy drinks and snacks throughout the day as you please, but this is also where we meet for breakfast, lunch, tea time, dinner, and hang out well into the evening, chatting, relaxing, and trying to connect to the very spotty Wi-Fi. But if I were you, I would just plan on being disconnected from the internet so you can connect to Fiji. There are a handful of these oceanfront huts or bures for rent, which that's where we stayed. We rented this traditional thatched roof bure, which was just perfect. And these are really traditional stays. This is not a Hyatt or a Marriott. This is more local and, in my opinion, far superior than most resorts. Anyway, I'll leave that discussion for my next video where I compare and contrast two very different experiences, and you don't want to miss that. Anyway, in the common area there is this activity board, and we quickly got on the board for a sunset hike. And if you come to Fiji, you have to snorkel. I mean, right out in front of our stay, we had these vibrant and thriving reefs that were just incredible. I went out there with my new friend Jamie, and the craziest part for me was that the air temperature was 87 degrees, and the water temp also 87 degrees. It was amazing. Anyway, around 4 p.m., Megan and myself departed on our sunset hike led by our new friend Abby. It was a really fun hike. We made our way up through this dry creek bed, through the jungle, by mango trees, through bamboo forests, rock outcroppings, and while it was pretty hard, it was worth the view at the top, overlooking Kowata Island. If you watch sunset atop a mountain, though, you have to make your way back in the dark, which was a little bit of an adventure.
Kind of glad we left before sunset. It didn't quite open up. Oh, Megan, giant bat. Giant bat up here. Oh, it just went behind the trees. It was huge. It was like, oh, right there. Right there. Bat. We're back. Time to shower. Dinner time.
Which, by the way, there's a meal plan here. They prepare and clean up all your meals, and it's absolutely worth the price. I was skeptical at first, but this was so convenient. Really good food, and I would not have wanted this any other way. Travel tip number 2, the currency conversion rate right now is pretty easy. 10 Fijian dollars is worth 4 US dollars. So Megan and I got in the habit of just dividing the Fijian price in half and subtracting a little bit to convert to USD. So for this stay, our bure was $40 per person per night, and the meal plan was $30 per person per day, US dollars. I will gladly pay this any day. Such a nice way to go. Today we woke up to a tropical island rainstorm on Wayalailai Island, and this is something that I will never forget. It was a nice change of pace since we had beautiful weather most of the trip, and so I took advantage of it. I ended up sliding around with some local kids and just soaking in this moment. It was pure bliss.
The rain is so warm.
The storm only lasted about an hour and then cleared up and became blue sky and gorgeous, which worked out well because we signed up to do a village tour. The village is on the far side of the island, so we boated over to this really cool sand bridge, which spans Big Waya and Small Waya. Apparently at low tide, it's fully dry, but this is what it looks like on high tide. Super cool feature. We got to go do a school visit, which the school sits right at the connection point of these two islands. Pretty crazy to see their library, meet the teachers, and just imagine this tiny Fijian island school popping with kids. Such a different experience. We then strolled through the village and met a number of locals and thoroughly enjoyed our outing. I didn't film that as much because I wanted to be respectful and just be in the moment. We then got back to our side of the island and I got right to work on a coconut tree. I've always loved climbing coconut trees and it just feels right. It makes me feel like I'm on a survival show and I have to do this to survive. There's nothing more satisfying than drinking the very coconut water and eating the flesh from a coconut that I just collected. Anyway, after a nice afternoon, snorkel a little bit more, and then we rounded up a bunch of people to play soccer and volleyball at sunset. This evening at Wayalailai Ecohaven was one of my fondest memories on this entire trip. Just pure spontaneity and joy on an island in the middle of the South Pacific. Such a fun night. And travel tip number 3, when traveling these island chains, the biggest consideration is your accommodations and your transportation to, from, and within the islands. There are not constant ferries coming and going every 30 minutes like a city bus, so you have to be strategic here and let the transportation options dictate where you can go and when. We bought what is called a Bula pass, which allowed us to hop on and off this ferry as many times as we please for 5 days. It turns out this wasn't the best option for us as there was plenty to do on this island and we should have just bought one-way passes. Let's get back to the video. Today I woke up early and saw these kids bringing in the catch of the day, which was barracuda. This was just classic, and we ended up having these exact barracuda for lunch, which was delicious. But after seeing those teeth, I hope to never run into a barracuda out there snorkeling. Ironically though, today our activity was diving with reef sharks, so still a pretty teethy creature. This was a fun activity though because all of our friends who were staying at Wayalailai decided that we would do this activity together. We didn't just see white tip reef sharks, we also saw the bigger black tip reef sharks. This was pretty crazy and a really fun experience, but it was even crazier when this shark tried to take a bite out of my GoPro. Check out this clip. Eyes roll back, teeth gnarly. It was a little scary, but honestly so much fun. When we got back to our stay, there was a surprise birthday celebration for Mark, and this sort of just symbolizes Fijian hospitality, going the extra mile with song and making people feel welcome. After lunch, we enjoyed another snorkeling session with the crew up around the corner where there was different reefs, and it was just an absolute blast. Amazing. Some really cool wildlife down here. I just saw clownfish, crown of thorns, which apparently is bad for coral, and a bunch of other like parrotfish and triggerfish, and oh, it's so sick. Kirill even got this great shot of me coming out of a reef tunnel, just like underwater world and then out of water world. Insane. Later on in the afternoon, we got a palm frond weaving lesson from Joshua. Zoe was the real beneficiary here because she got to keep this hat.
Louie.
After dinner tonight, a big kava circle formed.
And just like that, the kava circle grows.
And we joined in and stayed long into the night just chatting and enjoying Fiji time. Kava, for those that don't know, is a very common drink here, and in Fiji, drinking kava is a central part of the culture. In my experience, it gets your tongue numb and relaxes you a little bit, but that's about it, despite it being called a psychoactive beverage. I definitely recommend it. All in all, this was another perfect Wayalailai day, capped off by kava. Today we had a slow and relaxing morning, kicked off by a medicine walk with Olga and Kirill.
This medicine nearly fell on me while in a hammock. Looks like kind of ugly pear.
This was really interesting as our tour guide taught us about all sorts of plant remedies that Fijians have used to cure ailments. And it makes sense. The closest hospital is probably a 2-hour boat ride away, and so they have to be creative here, using their traditional knowledge of local plants to cure things.
Oh, wow.
Smells so good. After this, of course, I went snorkeling a couple times. Megan and Anita even came out on the kayaks, and we just spent as much time as we could in the water before our Wayalailai stay came to a close. The ferry heading back to port stops at Wayalailai around 3:30 every day, and when guests leave the property, the Wayalailai staff do a send-off song, which is just so genuine, kind, and original. And today was our turn. Our host Tylo said some very kind words to us, and this is just truly a special memory. We said our goodbyes, gave our hugs, and we were off to the next adventure. Vinaka Vakalevu to the staff of Wayalailai and our new friends that made this such a special trip. And for everyone still watching, book your trip to Fiji, get out to the islands, you will not regret it. In fact, it might be the best thing you ever do.